I feel like I'm dying already from this carnivore shit. Vegans must be onto something. Well, here I am, live again. It's been a few weeks since I went live. And today, I'm going to do things a little differently. I do have a little bit of a topic to start off with, but I'm going to try and keep that to a minimum. And, once the questions start flowing, I'll go ahead and answer anything that you want to ask in regards to health, lifestyle, or maybe you just want to get to know me or something. I don't know. It's kind of like an anything goes kind of situations here. So we're just going to see how this works out as far as that. Now, I continue to get concerns, mainly from vegans at this point, but a few other uninformed people have come along, and I wanted to kind of give a quick shout out to a good article I found and a few other things, and also get into some of the things I've experienced. But I already went over a lot of this in a video, so we're really here today to talk and to have your questions, because I'm sure that there are plenty of questions. I can't get to all of them. If the chat's flying by and I don't get to your question, then just resubmit it, and try and grab my attention. I'll do the best I can, but please don't be butthurt if I don't get to your fucking question. Anyways, the carnivore diet. I'm about a week and 3 days into it. Is it a week and 3 days? Yeah, something like that. And I'm doing well. My bowel movements, which were a moment of concern, have improved. My mood did not tank when I added the artificial sweetener back in, so I'm thinking that's going to be okay to include in the diet. I might start experimenting with the 100% chocolate next. My weight, 191.5, solid. There's a 3-pound swing between 189 and 192. So, and that doesn't move. And my measurement has been solid, which is 34.75 inches around the belly button, which is in the healthy range. It's not abs, but it's good enough for health. And of course, everyone knows my blood levels are good, and that'll be what somebody will question for a while till I get more blood work done. After having refined this diet and done it for a while, I will go and get my blood work revisited. But I'm still getting the comments, even on today's video. A vegan I argued with, you can go look in the comments for that video and you'll see my little argument I had with him, about the vitamin thing and how I'm going to have a heart attack, all of the usual bullshit that people spout off when it comes to meat, because that's all you hear in the media. And so I'm here to share with you some stuff that doesn't say that, that is positive. And it is a blog post, and it is an anecdotal blog post that talks about someone's personal 90-day experiment, their results, their blood work, their measuring of their fat loss during their 90-day process, which is longer than I plan on going as far as carnivore is concerned. I plan on going ketovore, which I'll get into as we go on the foods that I will allow in my diet and the foods that I'm pretty much done with. And a lot of the done with, I can get into the reasons for that, but that's what the Q&A is for. We'll go through all of that. But anyways, the link to this is in the description. At least I just updated it not too long before this to put it in the description. But this is on medium.com by Andy Lindquist. I found this through Google. because I was looking for anecdotal experiments. The problem is whenever I search carnivore, I get like pages and pages of Sean Baker. It's like he's the only motherfucking carnivore out there, which I don't think is true, because I get a lot of feedback in my comments from people doing this and getting results doing this. And I feel like the search algorithms are just focusing on him for some reason. Zero carb yields some slightly better results, but overall I'm trying to find stories, and I know Reddit is a good source, and I plan on studying Reddit a lot more, as far as the zero carb subreddit. But for now, I came across this article and I was pretty impressed with its objectivity, with the way it addresses the common misconceptions of, and I recommend this article, you know, to at least, I'm not saying it's a blog, it's, you know, an opinion based on an N=1 experiment, and the data presented. But basically, to sum up what I got out of this article is they lost 30 pounds in 90 days on this diet. That's thoroughly measured body fat percentages. He said he got like a pod scan or a pod test or whatever that is. I think that's where they dunk you and they figure shit out. I'm not sure how that works. But, you know, when you scroll down here, I was really interested in the blood tests. After a 90-day period, he had no vitamin deficiencies, a low serum glucose level, a hemoglobin A1C under 5%, a super low C-reactive protein. Almost every single biomarker associated with good health was well within range. As expected, from a high cholesterol diet, my LDL was elevated, my HDL was super low, but my triglycerides were low. As in, he had a good HDL triglyceride level, which means he's out of the ballpark for heart disease. Well, imagine that, vegans, and that's the #1 thing I'm hearing for vegans on that. However, just one look at biomarker like cholesterol is not always the best thing to do due to the variability in numbers. And cholesterol is not a good measure of heart disease risk. We're done with that. We took a big shit on Ansel Keys. Bye-bye, Ansel. Your theory and your epidemiology study has pissed us on us long enough. We've destroyed our health because of it. So quit parroting that cholesterol bullshit when it comes to heart disease. There's only one real biomarker that I could trust in that blood work, and that is the HDL triglyceride ratio. And mine's good. So, and I've been doing keto-ish for a couple years now and doing intermittent fasting for 3 years. And before that, I was eating shit. Not a lot of vegetables in my life, throughout my life. You know, occasionally a salad and a little piece of lettuce or some tomato and some fucking tomato sauce. That was my fucking vegetables. So, you know, that's all I had going on there. So, you know, without spending too much time, the other thing I wanted to address is the argument I always hear, you need vitamins and shit, you don't get vitamins in your meat, that's bullshit, you could die, vitamins. Now, I do realize this is not an expansive comparison, but one of the things that vegans like to eat a lot of is kale. You know, why? Because potassium and shit. And I used to think that on keto, you know, like I gotta get my fucking potassium. Little did I know that beef has more potassium than kale per 100 grams. You ever eat 100 grams of kale? It's not fun. 100 grams of beef is not a lot of beef. Just saying. And if it's that nutrient dense, imagine if you're eating like a fucking 16-ounce fucking piece of meat or a pound of ground beef, how much you're getting. You gotta, and I do believe you gotta cook it pretty rare so that you can preserve some of this, because you do lose some of it. And I cook it rare. I pour the juices that are in that it's cooking in, and the blood and whatever else comes out of it, that goes right on it, and then I eat it. And it's still mooing, so to speak, you know. But if you look, you know, it's more nutritiously dense per 100 grams than most vegetables. About the only one that you're going to be led to question, and the one that'll be focused on, is vitamin C. Well, the problem with vitamin C in beef, they haven't actually measured it. They just assumed it was 0. However, liver, there is vitamin C. And I would contend that we need to revisit our, you know, measurement of vitamin C in beef, because Amber O'Hearn quoted that there is No, they never measured it. They assumed it was 0, and that's what went into the labeling. So all the labels, nutrition information you see out there on beef, they assumed it was 0. They didn't actually check. And I would be curious if anybody knows. Please link in the description after this is over, not in the chat. Anything that indicates an actual test, an actual measurement of vitamin C content in raw meat. I understand cooking, which also applies to vegetables, by the way. If you cook a vegetable, you do the same thing, will remove the vitamin C. So the other thing that people misconceive on that is the amount of vitamin C you require in your diet is based largely on the amount of carbohydrate you're consuming, because they have the same receptor. They're competing to get in with glucose. So if you're in a high carb diet, you need more vitamin C for it to get in there and do its job. If you're on a low carb diet, there's not as much glucose in your blood to be dealt with, especially if you're on it for a really long time and you get down to the 70-80 range. Plenty of room. You don't need a lot of vitamin C for it to do its job. That's my take on the research on that. So that wraps up my little spiel. Now we're going to get to the chat today. And we're going to see what you guys want to talk about tonight. So I'm going to scroll back up on my side. You guys will see kind of, I'm on a little bit of a delay for the motherfucking, for the live stream. So we'll just have to see. So I'm going to scroll back here and see if there's any questions going on. Chayote, I've been watching the snake diet videos recently. Anyone done dry fasts in your experience? Also, by the way, thank you, Leonardo Kardashian, for your donation to the super chat. Can you do a reaction video to Cole versus Shade 45? That's 2 comments on the snake diet, and I have watched some of his videos. I don't actively watch him because he's a little off on some of the things he's doing. He is, I don't disapprove he is helping people. There's no doubt. At a little bit of risk. I'm not a big fan of dry fasting. I never will be a fan of dry fasting because you're really pushing it at that point. There's a reason our body holds on to water weight. Water is essential for almost every biological process. Any metabolic process is very water dependent. You store glycogen with water. You store fat with water. Water is help, it holds your electrolytes, and your electrolytes, you die without the motherfucking electrolytes. So there's that. Thank you, Sherry Ambrose, for your super chat donation. So I am going to be catching up on some snake diet stuff because I want to see what he's been talking about and all the controversy, because he is getting a lot of press with the things he's saying, but he's very, he's probably one of the few motherfuckers that says fuck more than I do. And I do applaud him for that. And, but I'm not 100% in his camp as far as some of the things he tells people to do. But like I said, this is my opinion. And if you research and you find that his data has led you down a path that has helped you, then by all means, do your research, do your homework, consult your doctor if you're on medication or if you have severe health issues, and then you can try the shit that he suggests. I've came here by trying the shit that people were talking about, and sometimes the people, like, Sean Baker, for example, is one of those people right now. The people who, sorry, I forgot to turn my cell phone off like a motherfucking asshole. I'll have to work on that in the future. But the people I learned a lot of this shit from going forward, they were on the fringe. They weren't people that were acknowledged as experts. They were kind of called heretics. Brad Pilon was one of the first fasting gurus I used to follow. You don't hear a lot about him nowadays. He was demonized when I started following him, but it gradually improved as time went on. He since seems to have dropped off the fasting scene or the radar. I haven't seen anything new from him lately. But you know, he's one of the ones I started out watching Hodge Twins. You know, I started out watching people doing shit that was outside the realm of what we normally do, and I think the snake diet guy qualifies. The snake diet guy qualifies for that. This is why we don't go live all the time. All right, let's see what else we got here. I'm still scrolling down on my window. I'm not caught up to the other window yet. Oh, shit. Let's see. Jose Bonilla. Have you looked into raw animal products, and what about Agent Venda the Plantis and Natasha Campbell and Sfurge? I don't know who that first one is, and I butcher names, sorry. I do believe that there is some merit to not fully cooking the meat, because you are destroying, if there's any vitamins in there, the more you cook it, the less of that you're getting. You cook it, you get it warm enough to get rid of any bacteria you don't want. But at the same time, you mentioned Natasha Campbell, who's a big gut health expert, and I do have her book, and I've just started reading it. And, you know, some of the importance of that bacteria getting into your body, you know, you're supposed to have it. You're supposed to have this, you know, diverse gut bacteria, and we get part of that by eating meat, and it not 100% cooked. You know, I've been told for years, you gotta cook the shit out of it. You're gonna get all of these fucking, you know, salmonella and all of this shit. Well, you know, I think that's an overreaction. But don't quote me on that. I don't know. Maybe I'll end up, you know, eating a meat that's a little too raw. Now, I don't want to go full raw. You're not going to see me pull a steak right out of the fucking thing and eat it that way. But I do believe in it being pretty fucking rare, is in just the very outside is brown when you cook it. And then everything inside should be pink or red. I'm not opposed to eating something with the red, you know, it's like obviously raw in the middle. So that way I know I'm getting a lot of the vitamins, minerals, and all of that are caught in the fluids. You don't forget that our electrolytes, potassium, magnesium, sodium, and it's the same for animals, are carried in our fluid. And when you cook the shit out of something, that fluid goes away. And when that fluid goes away, so do those electrolytes that you could be using. And that's one of the things the vegan was questioning. What about your electrolytes? Well, I'm getting all my electrolytes in a fucking slab of meat. It's all there. And what sodium might not be there, guess what I'm putting all over the motherfucker? So, you know, there's that. So that's my opinion there. Sfurge is a little bit, you know, I do like his interviews on ex-vegans. I like a lot of his stuff, but he does step a little too far over the conspiracy theory line. And I'm borderline there myself, but even still, he's a little further over that conspiracy theory side of things from some of the videos. Maybe I just made a snap judgment based on a couple videos of his that I watched. But, you know, I do appreciate his videos. I do like what he does. And applaud him. It's, you know, there's a lot of people that I agree with that I'm not necessarily 100%, you know, fully vested in as far as everything they say. And you shouldn't be that way with me, you know, or anyone for that matter. You should just, you know, pick the parts you agree with and, you know, argue with motherfuckers about the parts you don't. Or, you know, and I get a lot of that. A lot of people will tell me when they don't agree 100% with everything I say. And that's fine, because I like the back and forth, because it encourages me to learn more. It encourages me to, you know, improve. And maybe I got some shit wrong, and I'm never going to find out if no one ever tells me, hey, motherfucker, you're fucking up. You know, so there's that. So there's that. Let's see here. Let me continue to scroll down. I think I'm going to try and catch up a bit here. Oh, my buddy Octane, who just called during the live stream, was like, stop the stream, I need you to help me, I will buy you a hunk of meat. I have plenty of meat, thank you. I keep my meat well stocked, so to speak. All right, I was being a little inappropriate on camera, my bad. Let's see here. Fuck. Sorry, this is what happens when you don't have anybody going through your chat for you. Chayote. Dr. Fung was the person who opened my eye to fasting. This was August 2017. 50 pounds down since then. Lots of slip-ups along the way, but hey, progress. And it is a long journey. You do come a long way, you know, when you start down this path, you know, and anybody that's watched my videos over the past 3 years knows I started out with no knowledge of this nutrition shit. And now I'm sitting here helping other people that are to get where I got, doing, you know, maybe skipping over the mistakes I've made over the past 3 years and just going directly to the shit that works. Most of the things that I've learned were through trial and error based on those outlier people that are considered heretics by the medical industry and the nutrition industry, but who have plenty of anecdotal data or clinical data. In the case of Dr. Fung, he has clinical data to back his stuff up. Sean Baker is obviously working on some data by having his experiment, you know, that people are getting involved in. And that's probably why he takes up that page, is, you know, there's a lot of attention on Sean Baker in this diet because of the fact he's a doctor. But people like me, a truck driver, nobody's looking at truck drivers to say, hey, what the fuck, you know? So I'm scrolling. The chat has slowed down a bit. This is rare. So if you have a question, now is the time. Let's scroll back, see if I missed any other questions. Let's see. Dead air. Dead air is always fun. Spive at Cindy Brown. You are slow today. You need protein or something. Oh, that brings up a point. Not that anyone's slow. It's protein and ketosis. You know, I just ordered the motherfuckers through Amazon. I'm going to start linking these as an Amazon link. Ketone strips. They were $10. And I was curious. You know, I've been doing the carnivore thing for a week, and one of the things I've heard from the keto community is if you overeat protein, you're going to go gluconeogenesis, and you're going to kick yourself out of ketosis because you'll be making too much motherfucking glucose. Moderate. This is without fasting. You know, and in the past on keto, it's been light, but moderate ketones right now. And that was today. So that answers that question, along with, you know, the video that I pimped out yesterday or today, actually. Was it today that I put that video up? But there, you know, I filmed it yesterday. But I, you know, there's proof out there that protein is not the cause. It's the insulin glucagon ratio. So you can eat protein till you're full of it, you know, so to speak. But don't just eat protein. You need fat with that. Because you eat protein all by itself, you get what's called rabbit starvation, which is not good. It can hurt you. Scrolling down. Let's see where we're at. Glenn Graham, meat should not be burnt. It tastes better when not burnt. That's a true story, too. I do like the raw meat flavoring, you know, or rare. And I used to always get medium rare, but now I'm definitely in the rare camp. Deb Z, do you limit your protein to so many grams per day, or do you eat until satiated? I do not count my grams of protein. Occasionally, out of curiosity, I'll look things up. Like I had that 20-ounce prime rib not too long ago. I'm like, that's got to be a lot of fucking protein. So I went and looked it up, and it was like 100 grams of fucking protein in one meal. And I've done that. And you know what it did for me? Still in keto, because that wasn't too long ago. And, you know, I'll eat a pound of ground beef, still in keto. I guarantee you that's a lot of protein. I eat lots of Greek yogurt, tons of protein. You know, I eat that every day. And it has not affected ketosis. So there's really no purpose for me to count the protein because A, I'm utilizing it. It's going to be used. It's going to be used to rebuild tissues, to break down into amino acids that will be used to rebuild tissues in the body and cells. And then whatever extra there is, the liver will convert to glucose and put it in your glycogen stores. However, it will not fill up your glycogen stores based on protein. You cannot get full glycogen from protein. I contend it will go up. Your storage of glycogen will go up a pound, probably. But overall, I would say no, it's not going to be a deal breaker. So why bother tracking that metric? I just try and eat at least a 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 ratio of fat to protein. And I get most of that through the heavy cream in my coffee. When I cook a steak or meat, I put a nice chunk of butter in the pan. And I pour that shit all over the meat. It's all over the plate. And I, bathe the meat in butter. So I get plenty of fat, plenty of protein, and it is quite filling. And by the end of the meal, I am fucking happier than shit. So there's that. Spy21, me and Cindy got unofficial race to all the videos and live chats. That's going to take a long fucking time. I've got a lot of content and a lot of long videos. I can't even go back and watch my own shit. I tried once. I tried to start to rewatch my old shit and just see how fucked up I was 3 years ago. And I just couldn't do it. I didn't have the time. I mean, you're talking some serious, like, Netflix. You could watch the entire Netflix library in the time it would take to watch my videos, probably. I mean, it's really that much. So I got a lot of content. But hey, let me know who wins. I don't know if I have a prize or anything. I don't have a lot of, funding for prizes just yet. But, it is what it is. Let's see here. Heather Gorby, I eat grass-fed butter on my ground beef. I want to emphasize again, I'm trying to go more organic, but I'm not there 100%. I still get some of the factory shit in there. So I'm not 100% healthy, in my opinion, when it comes to my meat choices. Plus, eating out on top of that, there's other things that get mixed in. I generally eat out once a week, and I'm picky. I try to go to places I don't feel like shit after I eat out. And that's kind of how I measure the quality of a restaurant. If I go there and I eat out and I don't gain 4 pounds in the next fucking day and I don't feel run down and like a bag of shit, and, there's no autoimmune issues, there's no depression issues, there's no energy dips. If none of that happens after I eat in a place, it receives my seal of approval. And if they were, a little more understanding of my dietary needs, that gives them a bonus or a plus. But I do understand that most places I go into are going to be like, what the fuck? You just want meat? What about potatoes? What about bread? What about salad? What about putting these croutons and shit on that salad? And I find it helpful when you're eating in a group of friends, just offer them your sides. Don't even bother fucking with the waitress. Just ask them to give your sides to whoever you're with. And maybe they'll eat the people you're with who aren't on your diet will take that shit home and be happy. Maybe they'll feed their family with it. I don't know. I recently had this happen, and it does work. You trade meat for meat, and your salads with the people you're with, and I think that helps socially because you're giving somebody more food. So it is what it is. But yeah, I kind of gauge how I feel based on that, or the things that I the places I go to eat. If I go to eat and they tank me, I'm done. I don't go back to those places. So let's see. Glenn Graham, rabbits are herbivores, and the flawed U.S. dietary guidelines are based on feeding rabbit herbivores meat. False studies. I don't know that our entire U.S. dietary guidelines are based on feeding rabbits, but they are definitely based on our agriculture. And there's a reason for that. Our dietary guidelines are not based on public health. They never will be. Because our dietary guidelines are based on our money. Money in agriculture, money in healthcare, money in pharmaceuticals. And make no mistake, I'm reading Whitewash right now. I'm just about done with it. I'll be putting a review out pretty soon, which is a glyphosate-based book and shows what Monsanto did to fight, to keep glyphosate as mainstream use in agriculture as it is used today. And it's all financial interest based. If you were a scientist coming out against them, you got trounced. And they have hired scientists that they'd sent around. There was emails that this book is definitely going to piss you off if you read it. It's pissed me off. I'm triggered on this book quite regularly. I'm saving it for the review to where I kind of let loose, but it's money. Money is the reason we are unhealthy. If you really want to get down to the root cause of where we fucked up, it's money. And we're putting money over our public health. And it shows in every sector, in every hamster wheel we're in. The food hamster wheel, the fitness hamster wheel, and of course, the healthcare and pharmaceutical hamster wheel that we ultimately end up with. And all of these things are not designed for us to be healthy. They're designed for us to be healthy enough to not die just yet. And sometimes they fuck that up. And, we need to change that. A long time ago, we went and fucked up. We went against nature. Nature has a way of recycling everything. There is a kind of a circle of food, and it goes through the plants. It's a cycle that we have disrupted with industrial agriculture and factory farming and chemicals everywhere, all over our food, that are causing us to have autoimmune issues, causing us to have autism, causing us to have cancer, causing us to have all of these problems. And then you throw all that sugar and the diabetes into the mix. It's a big recipe that our food has become inedible in a lot of cases, and we need to go back to a more natural way of eating, which means farms that are organic, that are not monoculture. They have livestock, they have fields they rotate them around on, then they plant different crops in those fields, and then, and all of that replenishes the nutrition in the soil, which ends up in the plants. And, and if you wanted to eat plants, and this is my number one argument for carnivore right now, it's one of the reasons that I'm going carnivore, is the fact that our industrial agriculture is atrocious right now. And the more and more I dig into this, the more I look into the research on this, and the more and more I see people telling me, hey, I went carnivore and this got better, and it's an autoimmune thing, or that got better, and it's, one of the things that is caused by glyphosate. And I'm like, that makes sense. It might not be the plant's fault. It might be the chemicals on the plants. But we have to study that. There's no studies that are doing organic vegetable versus factory farm Monsanto bullshit. Those are the things we need to figure out. But no one's going to pay for that. We have to crowdfund that shit. We're gonna have to do a whole lot of N=1 to really test that out. And I think we're already doing that kind of here on at least on my channel. So there's that. Chayote, my FIL had blood tests recently, fasting sugar 76, post-meal 84. He eats loads of sugar and starches. I was quite surprised, but he does have high blood pressure managed with medication. There are people that haven't hit the wall yet in terms of diabetes, but that doesn't put them out of the woods on fatty liver disease, doesn't put them out of the woods on heart disease. If he didn't require any medication and he was eating pasta, then by all means. But does he have autoimmune problems? Is he hungry all the time? There's a lot of symptoms that don't send you to the hospital, but they suck, and they don't have to be. Allergies. I've had allergies a long time in my life, and they're gone now, and gone through diet. And it's... it's profound that we can fix. These are preventable things that we live with our entire lives. And we just say, oh, I'm just, I'm lactose intolerant. Well, why the fuck are you lactose intolerant? Because you probably have leaky gut brought on by the glyphosate problem. That's one of the, explanations. There's probably more than one way to get there. Not to mention the factory farm cows they're making the milk, the antibiotics they're pumping them full of that are killing off all the gut bacteria that you need. It's kind of it can be depressing when you think about it. But you got to press on. We can only do the best we can based on our food environment. So yeah, there's always going to be unicorns that are seemingly healthy and they get to eat all the shit that we don't. But if you try to eat the way he does, you're probably not going to have the exact same results. Or your FIL. I don't know who the FIL is. But whoever that is, if you eat the way they eat, you might not have the same results health-wise. So there's that. I was eating that way a long time before I became pre-diabetic. And I wasn't even pre-diabetic by current medical standards. I just saw the writing on the wall long before. And I think I caught it in time before I had damage to my pancreas, which would mean my pancreas would have a diminished capacity to produce enough insulin to deal with my blood sugar, which is the boat a lot of diabetics are in. For example, my mother, who's lost 10 pounds now since she started keto. She's starting to get interest from some of her friends who have observed, how are you doing that? Wow. And she's made it her own. She bakes keto good. She does all of that shit. Her blood sugar has dipped into the 90s occasionally. When she has a little bit more physically active days, they're down to 103, 110, range. On non-physically active days, she's in the 120, 130 range. It's all a matter of the pancreas doing its job. And I do believe if we damage our pancreas, which many of us have, we can't control our blood sugar as efficiently on our own, which is another reason that if you're diabetic, you have to be keto or you have to be medicated, because your liver and your pancreas aren't going to get the job done alone. They're not going to take care of things. So there's that. Let's see. YouTube, Edginus von der Planets. He is ahead of his time. I'll have to check that out. Post that in the comments too, so I can link to it, because the chat disappears, I think, after a while. Let's see. Chayote, Scott, do you think big weight loss is doable with no long fast at all? Nothing over 24 hours. Do I think it's possible? Yeah, but it's going to take a really, really long time. And the set point could last years. You could be sitting at a plateau for a year or two. And I did. I sat at a plateau for a year. And it takes some of those fasts to kind of nudge that down a little. And to burn off some of the fat that you're still holding on to. Turns out every time you do a longer fast, you go in, you grab a piece of that fat that's been around a while. And, then you probably restore some of that when you refeed. But overall, your body starts to get used to things. And I would contend that not only do you need to fast, you also need to have small periods of overconsumption to wrap up metabolism in terms of keto. So in other words, for every fast day, you should have probably a overeating day at some point, not right away, get used to being fed again, but then ramp it up a little right before the fast, have some big meals, and that way your metabolism's high, so you go into the fast with a higher metabolism, so maybe it doesn't drop as far. That's a question. Remember, your metabolism can burn 500 more or less calories per day at rest. Not to mention the efficiencies of exercise and all of that stuff that comes into play. So that's why calories in, calories out is complete shit and doesn't mean anything, as far as weight loss is concerned. It's about metabolism, the types of calories you eat, and how often you are eating them and storing them. And what kind of fuel you're running on is another factor as well. So there's a lot more to it than calories in, calories out. And you just got to do the best you can. Eat what's healthy. And, you know, I would contend you don't need to be 100% thin to be healthy. You know, you don't need to see abs or look like a fucking fitness model. Society tells us that. Don't listen to society. Society tells us a lot of shit that we shouldn't be fucking listening to. But you know what should matter? Are you medicated? How do you feel? Do you have energy? Are you allergic to shit? Is your health better? When you get your blood work, does that all look good? And by look good, I mean look good by the standards that, you know, educated people who are looking at that would say that they look good, because there's some doctors who need to revisit that. But at the same time, does all of that look good? If you're healthy, it shouldn't matter if you carry around 10 extra pounds. In fact, some could argue that that is healthy, to have a little extra body fat on you to weather any long fasts that you might have to do. Granted, we don't have to do them in modern society, but we should be, because that's how we're designed to work. So the bottom line is, let your body just normalize. Fix your health first, and your weight should become a secondary goal. And for most people, just working on the health issue the weight will come down by itself. And I hear it all the time in the comments, you know, that people said, I started keto and wow, I lost all this weight. They're not even talking about fasting in a lot of cases. Fasting is a tool that I use, and it is something that I use for more than one purpose. I don't just use it to try and move my set point down. My set point's being pretty stubborn. It doesn't want to move quickly. And I know it could take a few more years before it gets down to the 170 set point wise. So I do little things here to try and move it down or nudge it down. But that's no longer my overarching goal. You know, I've discovered I like feeling good. I like good health. I like not having to go to the doctors. I like when I do have to get my annual checkup to maintain my health coverage, that the doctor's like, holy shit, you're awesome. I like that. I feel good. My mood on the carnivore diet has been so stable that I'm definitely leaning in that camp. And that was one of the last remaining issues I had to work on. So get to that point, and that should be your goal, not the scale numbers or whether or not you can fit into the next size down of clothes or whether or not you look fuckable when you're naked. You know, these are not important things in the grand scheme of things. You know, whether or not I've done all of those things, I still manage to accomplish, you know, attracting the opposite sex occasionally. And, you know, there's not a problem there. In fact, all of those problems are social. But when it comes to it, if you're healthy, a lot of that falls into place. You know, your weight will normalize. You'll feel better. So there's that. All right. Cheryl Stark, 3 months keto, 25 pounds down. Yeah, I get a lot of these types of comments. Congratulations, Cheryl. And to everyone that's showing progress, you know, I'm very happy for you. And make sure you share that progress with people around you. Don't preach to them. Just say, well, look, I'm doing this, you know, and they might badmouth it. They might contradict it. They might say some shit. But if you care about them, just let them know that, no, well, I'm doing it and it works. So I don't know what you're talking about. But if you try and press too hard, they might be resistant. Let them come there on their own. Like I said, this is something you have to want. You have to want it more than you want the bad foods, which is difficult because the bad foods are pretty addictive. So, multi-species angular. Have you ever tried doing gluten-free with keto? Just started watching your vids. Keep it up. Keto's mostly gluten-free anyway, if you're doing it right. Now, technically, you could eat a piece of bread on keto. And the reason you could eat a piece of bread on keto is that could count under your carbs of 30 for the day if you didn't eat a lot of veg. Or, you know, there was a time way back in the day I ate a Pop-Tart, a single Pop-Tart, and remained in ketosis as tested by these strips. So, you know, there's a lot you can get away with on a keto diet. However, I believe if you are a whole foods keto, which is the camp I ultimately fell into, very little processed foods. Most of the foods I got were from the outside of the store. You know, yogurt. The most processed thing I had was Veronica's Health Crunch and Halo Top ice cream back then. And Halo Top's gone. I'm not bringing that back ever. So that's an elimination that had happened from being carnivore. But I do want to test out bringing back pecans, you know, and some of the other things. But I've come up with dessert solutions that are simple, easy for me to do. For example, one of the keto desserts that I could do was a cream cheese, and I melt the 100% unsweetened chocolate in the microwave. I mix a packet onto the cream cheese of stevia erythritol, and then I mix a packet of it into the chocolate, the melted chocolate. Then I pour it over that cream cheese, and then I put that in the freezer for about 2-3 minutes. Take it out, the chocolate's all hardened, and to me that's good. You know, it's, as you know, not quite cheesecake good, but it's close enough. And so it's being creative with the ingredients you're allowed to have will replace the need for bread. But some people have a bread need, and you know, for example, I know my mother still does the pop cake thing. There's these little puff bread like substances that are made from wheat that are only 4 grams of carbs per serving, and she'll have that as her bread substitute. So my advice is keto should be a gluten-free diet, because you should not be eating bread, pasta, or anything grain-based at all. So that's my opinion on that. At the same time, you got to be careful eating out because there's cross-contamination in terms of gluten. And the other thing with gluten is I do believe people become sensitive to gluten because of glyphosate. And if you follow any of the glyphosate science that's out there, you will know that it's closely related to celiac disease. Gluten gets the blame, and that was pretty clever for gluten to get the blame. But ultimately, gluten wasn't a problem before glyphosate. When glyphosate came on the scene, that's when people started getting lots of celiac disease and becoming gluten intolerant. So, you know, needs to be looked at, in my opinion. However, anytime somebody looks at it, big corporate fucking interests come in and shut them down and discredit them and get them to retract their shit. You know, it's crazy. And the more you look into that, oh my God, if you like being triggered and you want to be triggered, start looking into glyphosate and everything in that whole realm of food. And the reason you're going to get triggered is there ain't much you can fucking do about it. You can go organic, but you're still getting still get it in your water, still get it in your tap water. You bathe in it, it soaks in through your skin. There, you know, it's in the meat. You know, it's everywhere. Some places worse than others, and nobody's doing shit about it in the USA. There's other countries that are taking a stand on it, but here in the good old USA, we're just gonna have to suck it up and enjoy our glyphosate. Let's see. What else we got here? I'm like way behind. I did notice some super chats coming around, so let me take a look at those real quick. So, so far we had Leonardo, Sherry Ambrose, Dirk Renkin, and Heather Gorby. Thank you all. Heather Gorby wrote, "Thanks for these videos. I appreciate you guys. You're all helping me out, you know. And you help me not just financially, but you also help me with my knowledge base and the research articles you submit and the, hey, look at this guy, hey, check that out. I love that stuff. However, I do have an extensive list of shit that I'm working my way through. Plus, I got 4 books on my reading list that I'm working my way through. So I've got a lot going on in the research side. So it might take a while for me to get through everything. So let's see. What else we got here? Scrolling down. Glenn Graham, meat is being excessively demonized. Yes, it is. It keeps being demonized. It doesn't stop. When are we going to wake up that, you know, we ate meat for a pretty long time? and we didn't have a problem. The problems cropped up when we started eating less meat, when we started preaching that, you know, the whole diet heart hypothesis and saturated fat. So we became scared of healthy red meat or fatty cuts of meat and eggs, where eggs were demonized for so long. And now they're starting to go up in price because people are starting to realize that eggs weren't bad and they're actually a superfood as far as nutrition's concerned. We got to wake up from that. But there's a pushback, and I get it. I see it. It's in the media, and that's one of the reasons I'm so pissed off at media nowadays is they're really trying to push the vegan diet or the plant-based diet down our throats because that's where the money is. That's where our money is, in our agriculture, you know, and not in the meat department of our agriculture, although the vegans would have you think that, you know, all the cattle companies have caused all of these problems and, you know, they're the reason. You know, I agree the factory farms need to go and we need to go back to organic farming, but it's all financial, and it's I hate it. I hate watching the news because of that, because I see it all the time. And, you know, as somebody who does this pretty much for a living, and I have to research and I have to read these articles and I have to watch these news stories. And even if I try not to, people send them to me. It's, you know, it just gets so disheartening that I'm fighting against, you know, these huge, heavily financed corporate interests that are destroying our health and the health of our future generations and what's going to be left in a couple more generations. You know, I think we're maybe 2 or 3 generations out from a serious fucking problem. If not already there, I don't know. You know, we're looking at a 1 in 3 autism rate by 2030. That's going to change the landscape of how the world works. So we need to get off this fucking, you know, treadmill that we're on and start going back to nature and start going back to the way the world's supposed to work instead of trying to improve upon it, because quite frankly we suck at that. Every time we try to improve upon it, we end up hurting ourselves, and we just need to get back to the way the world is designed to work. And that's why I'm always talking about, you know, what were we doing 10,000 years ago, or even 100 years ago? We were still better off than we are today. You know, and that's what we should be looking at. What were we doing right back then that we now think we're smarter than that? Because we're not. You know, I think people 100 years ago would consider us completely stupid at this point from the shit that we're doing. So, and you'd think we would be getting smarter and not dumber as we move forward in time, but that's just not how it's going. Scott, what was your first swear word and how old were you when you used it? I do believe I said shit when I was like 4 or something like that. And shit. I don't know. I've had swearing around me my whole life. I worked in aircraft maintenance in the Air Force for 8 years, so there was a lot of swearing in that job. And then I was a truck driver, and if you ever want to hear swearing, just throw a dash cam on when I'm in fucking rush hour traffic. And it just became a part of me. And I have to actually actively focus to not swear, which can take away from my ability to present shit. So that's why I kind of don't put that filter on. But we need to stop being butthurt about that. I get so many fucking people. I can't watch it. You say fuck too much. Can we stop being so sensitive? I mean, we're a little oversensitive right now. We've become such pussies, you know, nowadays. You can't offend anybody. If you offend somebody, they're going to destroy you. You're going to end up on Twitter. They're going to talk about you in the news. They're going to destroy your business. You're going to get fired from your job. You know, you tweet something that you could be even remotely taken out of context, they'll come and fucking get you fired from your job. You know, is that really what we're down to not being able to freely express ourselves, even if we offend people? You know, we have a right to freedom of speech, at least I thought, but I think that's gone. Because I keep waiting for the day where I say something in my huge volume of videos that could be taken out of context, or maybe I just fuck up and say some dumb shit. And then it could come back, and next thing you know, there's a big fucking million Twitter thread that's repeated on every major news network, and the next thing you know, I am ostracized and I have to go live in a mountain somewhere to get away from the world. You know, which I'll do, by the way, gladly. But, you know, that's the world we're living in. That's what we're setting up. You can't offend anybody. It's not allowed. You know, so I get so many people that do that. Let's see. I need water. I haven't drank water and I'm talking a lot. Hydration and shit. How are we doing on time? We've only been at it an hour. See, we're getting a lot more questions done now that I cut back the beginning presentation, which sometimes I think ran for the first hour. Hold on, let's see. I'm getting messages held for review. Deborah, I can't give up my sugar. Halo Top gives you way too much gas. Fuck that shit. Sugars, I'm not going back to sugar. It took a while for me to kick that habit, to get over the addiction. I'm telling you, there's nothing better you could do for your health than to get sugar out of there. Not to mention sugar beet and all of those crops, sugar cane, glyphosate, pour it all over that shit. Sorry. But, you know, be that as it may, I know not everybody's going to do that. You know, that'd be like asking everybody to quit drinking, which isn't realistic. There's people who are going to drink. Some people are going to drink even when they know it's a problem. I fell into that camp. I managed to get out of it, barely. But it just, in order to do that, you have to want the benefits of not having sugar more than you want the sugar. And in order to do that, in order to know that, you have to give it up for a while to see what those benefits are. And by a while, I don't mean a week or 2 weeks. I mean, like, try going 6 months without sugar. And then if you still want sugar, then by all means. But the longer you go without it, the less you want it. But you have to get through that the initial month is going to be the roughest. And then after, 2 months or so, you'll be all right. Well, you're like, okay, I miss it, And now, where I'm at, having not had sugar since November, in large quantities, that is, I did have a little bit with the Veronica's Health Cream, and Halo Top has a little bit of sugar in it too. But nowhere near the quantities of any dessert or processed food that's out there. I don't want it, and now it's to the point where I'm carnivore, and I'm not really craving the sugar. I miss the chocolate, and I got my artificial sweetener. Well, it's not really artificial; it's stevia erythritol, but I do crave those. But I'm not looking for sugar. I'm not looking for baked goods. I walk through those sections now, and it looks like cardboard to me. That's how much I've trained myself. Now, granted, I've exposed myself to a lot of information, data, detrimental health effects of these foods. I've read lots of books on the subject now. So that probably had a role to play in me being able to remove sugar from my life, because I know what it does. I know how it's biochemically processed in our body, how our liver breaks it down and what it does with it. I know what fructose does to us in high doses. I know that we should not be eating any fructose in terms of processed foods. Maybe a little bit in the fruit, but your liver can handle that. But high doses of fructose, will overwhelm your liver. You're causing problems. And I would contend anything over 5 grams at a sitting of sugar is going to put you in that liver danger zone. And, then it's just a matter of living with the side effects of that. So, scrolling down, I think I'm falling a little behind, so I'm going to try and skip down some. Steady state cardio. Somebody talking about cardio? I don't want to do cardio. Although, my buddy is trying to get me to do a running challenge. He believes that's the area that I'm lacking in, is exercise. I told him that, you know, I prefer to go hiking. I don't mind kayaking. I don't mind, even though I almost died kayaking. You know, I like doing physical outdoor activities that I enjoy the activity. You know, I don't enjoy running from point A to point B. I don't get anything out of that. I don't like that. I don't enjoy running in the treadmill. I don't enjoy going to the gym. You know, if I'm going to do physical activity, it's a side effect of what I want to do. It's not the reason for doing it. And that's how I believe my exercise is going to be going forward. So I don't believe in working out. You know, I believe in being active. I'm not saying sit on your ass, but I'm saying do natural things that are physical, you know. Help your buddy move. You know, you want to lift up shit and put shit down, picking shit up, putting shit down. I'm sure there's any number of your friends that are moving some shit or need physical labor help. Go volunteer. There's probably organizations you can volunteer to pick shit up, put shit down. You know, walk into a local furniture mover and say, hey, I'd like to work for you for free. You'll save me tons of money on gym membership. I'll just help you move shit. You know, go be a lumper for free for a truck driver. They'll fucking help. They'll be like, oh yeah, you want to unload my truck for you? Fucking come on, let's go. Oh, you're not going to charge me? Yes. You know, none of those are enjoyable activities, but I don't believe in going to the gym, spending money to do shit that I can just do on my own. That's me. Well, what the fuck do I know? I know there's a lot of people that like exercise, so I'm just not one of them. Let's see here. Why does my chat keep scrolling? Oh, that's because it keeps moving. So I feel like I was going over the same ground. Let's see here. Cheryl Stark. I just had your comment. Scared to cheat, really. Don't want to. My body is too damaged. Fuck offended people. And, you know, eventually you won't want to cheat. I could go right out right now, have me a big bowl of pasta. Test that theory out, that people think that I can just eat pasta and not gain weight. I could tell you it's going to hit me like a freight train. If I were to go out in my current ketotic state after being carnivore for a week and a half, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be wrecked if I did that. But I don't want to. I'm not even craving it, really. You know, as going carnivore, I miss the keto foods. I don't miss the standard American diet shit. I miss the keto foods right now. You know, and it's kind of what we got to do. So, and Ozzy just caught my eye. But how often are you active? Well, I got to admit, the past couple of weeks, due to shitty weather and a lot of computer-based work, I haven't been active. That's going to change. I'm starting to gear up to get outside and do my hikes and do my trips. As the weather improves, I will go kayaking and hopefully not get dunked in the water if my buddy still wants me to do that. You know, I have a bicycle that I plan on riding. I do enjoy a bike ride here and there when I get around to it. I'm not structuring my world to exercise. Exercise comes with the things I like to do, you know, and it's not a matter of how often I'm active. I'm active as much as I have to be. If I really like an activity that's physical, I tend to get better at it, and then thus my need for endurance and stamina and strength and training and all of that just falls into place. If I like riding the bike, I'm going to do it enough to where I'm good at riding the bike. But I'm not going to go and spend hours of my life pounding the fuckmaster over and over and over and over again just so that I could pound the fuckmaster better. I mean, no. Can I do the things physically I need to do? That's how I measure that. I've already shown in my blood work that I don't need to go to the gym to have my health. My health is just fine. I am healthier than a lot of people that are going to the fucking gym right now. Sad to say it. I know people that are going to the gym that are on medication. I know people with diabetes going to the gym. I know people who are obese going to the gym. You know, there's a whole lot of motherfuckers in the gym without a whole lot of fucking health in the gym. And do I believe it plays a role in health? Yes. It's not the end all be all, though. And some people cannot exercise to that degree. Some people, exercise is being able to walk around the block. Some of the people who I've seen in the comments, some of the people who I've talked to in person are physically incapable of doing that shit. So why you're suggesting a solution that can only apply to a certain amount of people who are physically able to exercise, and you're saying that if you aren't physically able to exercise, you can't be healthy. That's not the truth. You can be healthy without a lot of physical activity as long as your diet is in order and your lifestyle choices and how often you eat, how much you fast. You know, there's all these other tools that give you an overall picture of health. And my buddy's really going at me on this one too. That's why I kind of brought this up a little. He really wants to emphasize the need for the physical activity. And we're probably going to have a debate at some point on camera about it. Because he's, you know, falls back on persistence hunting and a lot of the things in the past. And if he's watching, he probably didn't make it this far in. But, you know, there's some debate to be had on the subject. But as for me personally, I do not enjoy it. And, you know, I try and get active when I can get active. But to me, it's exercise is a side effect of wanting to do something that is physical. And I do like to do a lot of physical things. So there's that. At the same time, a lot of my work is sitting in this fucking chair at this computer editing. I have 2 photo shoots this weekend. So I'm going to be pretty busy. But I'm going to be pretty busy sitting in this chair. Not out doing the things I wanted to do. I wanted to go out hiking and film. But I want to fly my drone. I'm pissed off that I have this drone that I haven't flown in 2 weeks. There's things I want to get out, and I want to go out in nature to do those things. But I got work. I got to do my work. That hasn't gone away. So let's see here. How far behind? I'm starting to catch up a little. Let's see. Deborah Mazines, you look great with some pipe abs and quads, Scott. Not that you don't look great now. Like I said, not a life goal for me. But thank you, I think, for the compliment. But like I said, you know, it's not a goal. I do this for my health. I do this for how I feel. I do this for me. I'm not trying to please anybody with the way I look. I'm not trying to become a fitness model or a photography model. I like being behind the camera, as a matter of fact. I think I do much better behind the camera. Obviously, I'm in front of the camera here, but as far as I'm not here because you think I look good, I'm here because I'm giving you information that's going to help you be healthy. And looking good and healthy are not always hand in hand. In fact, I would contend that looking good and health are pretty much have nothing to do with each other. You can have somebody that doesn't look good, uglier than shit, you know, 400 pounds overweight or something, that's probably healthier than somebody who's about to die of a fucking heart attack that looks like a fitness model. Happens all the time. So looks are not a marker of health, though they do tend to fall in line as far as, you know, symptoms go. Like if you have skin problems, obviously you have autoimmune problems and you got to deal with that. But I don't know, it's not about aesthetics. I got into it a little bit. You know, I was a little interested in having abs in the beginning, and you can go back and watch some of my earlier videos, and I kind of was curious if I could get to ab range. And maybe I still can, I don't know. It could be a side effect of what I'm doing, but it's not a goal. It's not something I'm working on. It's not something I'm going to benchmark whether or not I succeed at. Right now, I'm happy to experiment and remove the last, you know, what I consider negative health thing in my life, which was the mood issue, where I would have depressive times, which did improve significantly with keto. And the reason I experimented with carnivore is because I was intrigued. I heard from multiple sources that your mood stabilizes completely, and I can tell you without a doubt, because I'm used to riding this roller coaster. I've been riding it a long time, my whole life. And after a week of carnivore, most of that time flat. So it was that acute, you know. And I'm willing to bet that if I bring back the foods that I eliminated going carnivore, that I would very quickly go back to that up down cycle pattern I was in. And I became fascinated with that aspect of the diet and that aspect alone, because I'm already there health wise, you know, aesthetically good enough, you know. I'm not a fitness model or and shit ever. Alrighty. Let's see. Sharpie nails. Yes, really hard to know at the start of keto. I'm sure Scott will answer your question. What was the question? Did I miss the question? Let's see. I hate it when I miss a question that people are reacting to that I didn't see the question. Scrolling down. I think I'm caught up to real time, by the way, so let's see. There we go. Oh, here's a good point. If you really, really want me to draw my attention to a question, and don't all start doing this, only if you have a question that I haven't answered, try and write the @ScottTheTruckDriver in there, and it highlights it for me, and it jumps out at me a little easier. Don't do that for everything, though, because then nothing will jump out. It'll defeat the whole purpose of it. So if I missed your question, do that. I don't know if I missed Riley's question, but it jumped out at me anyway. Sorry if it was asked, how do you feel about awful? Or awful. I've never tried. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Maybe it's something I should try. I don't know. I'll have to look into that. Right now, my diet's pretty basic, you know. Ground beef, steak, eggs, whole fat Greek yogurt, heavy cream in my coffee, cheese curds. I haven't had a whole lot of pork rinds. You know, I'm put off by the cornstarch that's in the French onion dip that I like, and I don't like just eating the straight pork rinds. I realize I could season those, but I'm kind of, I don't know. That was all the only. I think the only reason I was eating the pork rinds is so I could eat the French onion dip, and lo and behold, it's because it had one of the names of sugar in it, and it does have 2 grams of carbs per serving. So there's that, and I've since, you know, started experimenting with cream cheese and things that I can do with that. Especially now that I brought the sweetener back, I needed a little dessert in the carnivore diet. So the yogurt and the cream cheese are my dessert-like substances, but everything else is just pretty basic. Every once in a while I'll have some cold cuts because they're convenient and easy to grab. You can run into the store, get a half a pound of the shit, and just munch on it. But I don't get really crazy. I have definitely eating more raw when it comes to my beef. I'm trying to go organic. Eggs are already organic for me. I do eat a lot of eggs. I have breakfast sausage, which I think has a little bit of carb content, but also qualifies as organ meat if you think about it. And, you know, bacon, of course. So my diet is pretty basic. I am thinking of trying to reintroduce liver at some point. Maybe it was just overcooked when I tried it before. Now that I know that I should be eating a little more rare and raw, I might experiment with trying some of that. It's probably going to go bad because I didn't like the liver when it was cooked. But, you know, it is what it is. Let's see. Deborah, Scott, I know looks isn't a marker of health. I'm just bugging you. I really do believe in exercise, though. The benefits are huge. You do you. I like it. Look, if you like exercise, by all means. I'm just saying it's not for me. And that's why it's not for me. Is in it. I don't want it to be the only reason. I'm not exercising for the sake of exercising and fitness. I just want to do things that require me to be physical, and if I can do them efficiently, and at first I might not be because I might be out of shape, but over time, as I repeat the activity, I get better at it, you know, much like working out. I just don't believe in intentionally working out. You know, I don't think that's what we're supposed to be doing. I think we need to gauge the amount of fitness that we need to live a healthy life, which isn't a lot, in my opinion. We don't need to be super fit, buff motherfuckers. You know, that's what the TV tells us we got to be. That's what magazines tell us we got to be. But in our physical demanding life, there's some of us that are very physical, you know, have physical jobs, have to do physical shit all the time. And I would contend they need less exercise than the rest of us because they're already getting it. So there's that. But exercise, you know, if you like it and you enjoy it and you actually enjoy the process of exercise, then by all means do it. If you love running, then run. It's not for me. That's it. You know, that's what I'm saying there. I am not saying exercise is unhealthy for you, but I am also saying that you can be healthy without exercise. It is a possibility and a proven possibility. So there's that. Let's see. JG asked something. Okay, JG Lee apparently asked something that I missed. I'm scrolling up. I guess not. Oh, fuck. Oh, well, ask again, JG. I'll try and keep an eye out. Let's see. Reza Moradi. Or Moradi. I'm sorry, I butchered names. Raw brain is the bomb, man, especially lamb. I have not tried brain yet. A little, you know, I'm still kind of new to eating other parts of animals. Let's not get too carried away. I don't know that I could eat brain. I don't, you know, maybe the thought of it might put me off. Maybe the consistency, the taste. I don't know. I tried liver, so at some point I might try other, you know, delicacies in terms of meat. And other animals. I have had lamb. Lamb is good. I liked lamb. I don't know what kind of cut of lamb I had. It was in some fancy smanchy restaurant. So yeah, I don't know. I've had duck too. I like duck. I'm not a fan of venison, you know, and I think that's just from driving a truck and seeing them all splattered all the time. Just kind of turned me off a little. I don't know, but I have eaten venison, and I wasn't a fan of the flavor or the taste or anything. You know, I've never been a big fan of venison. So there's kinds of meats that I'm not into, and certain organs I'm probably not going to be into either. So, let's see. Ozzy, how much fat do you eating on a carnivore diet? Pretty much either a 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 ratio in terms of how much I consume that it is fat. Most of my fat is from fatty cuts of meat. I put butter and cook with butter all over those. Pour melted butter on shit. Heavy cream, cheese, you know, eggs. So I get plenty of fat, and I have no question of that. I did notice on the carnivore diet that I have more of an appetite when I do eat. I do eat for longer, and I eat more during the meal, which is not what I did in keto. But I get the same level of the same amount of time of not being hungry again, and sometimes long times, like 24 hours. But that could just be training from fasting too, so there's that. But I do find that when it's time to eat, I can put down quite a bit of meat now, which was unexpected. I used to get full a lot sooner, but on carnivore, that seems to be a side effect. And I've seen reported anecdotally elsewhere that you won't get full as quick. You will be able to eat a pretty good chunk of meat. You know, I took down that 20-ounce prime rib without blinking. I was full afterwards, almost overstuffed, and I had that slightly, I hate a little too much pain afterwards. But the fact that I was able to do that without getting full first is not something I was doing on keto alone. When I went carno, I could do this. So there's that. JG Lee, Scott blew it with his liver eating. Yeah, I probably did. But I'm going to give liver another shot because I know that there's extra nutrition in liver, and maybe I just need to undercook it a little. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. So, Riley Petit, where can you get brains? I've been Googling and looking all over. I would guess a butcher. You'd have to go directly to a butcher that's directly associated with a farm, which, by the way, interesting that brought that up. I do plan on doing some road trips locally to some of the organic farms around, finding out where they send their stuff or if I can buy directly from them. I'm going to start with farmers markets when they become in season. And then I'm going to experiment with just trying to buy my meat locally from local producers. The problem with that is a lot of the things I've started researching a little, and they want you to buy like half a cow, you know, slaughtered or pre-slaughter. You have to go get it butchered yourself. I don't have a place to put a cow. So, you know, there's that. You know, or I don't have a huge deep freezer, you know, or any of that. And plus I don't like eating meat after it's been frozen. I prefer to just get it before it, you know, goes bad, you know. So there's that. I like fresh, as fresh as I can get. So, you know, I'll be doing some of that. And that's pretty much the only answer I would have for that. If you can't find it in a local store, and there's probably some niche butcher stores or butcher markets that you can get all of that. Another thing I've been told is you can go to the supermarket butchers, some of them, and ask and request, because they probably throw a lot of that shit away, thinking it's not going to sell. But turns out if you go to the supermarket and say, hey, I'll buy that if you know, package it up for me, they'll get it for you probably. You might have to order it ahead of time or something like that. But I do know that there's a few stores here that do. You can go to their butcher section because they get the whole deal from the farms, and they butcher it and cut it themselves. And you can request the whatever it is that you want to try and eat from the animal. As far as raw milk, you know, that's a little harder to come by, but you might have to go directly to a farm for that. That's milk before they kill it with pasteurization. Yeah. And we're at an hour and a half. Yeah. So, Reza, try bison liver for some sweet treat. JG Lee, it's an acquired taste. Much easier if you grew up eating it, not a 41-year-old asshole eating it for the first time. That's probably true. You know, it might be an acquired, you know, it's probably an acquired taste. And I have many foods now that I eat that I didn't used to like, you know. And some of them are vegetable. Like I used to hate spinach as a kid, and then it's one of my favorite fucking foods now. So there's that. Manuel V, do you eat pork? Of course. I'm not a big pork chop fan, but most bacon mainly, you know, hot dogs, that kind of stuff. Pork rinds, you know. So yeah, I eat pork. No problem with eating the pigs. Sharpie nails. I like whipped cream too, Mike, and freeze it yum. Put some cocoa and instant coffee powder. Yeah, you should experiment with making yourself desserts. There is possible to have desserts in your life. Thank you, Brian Smith. Hey, Scott, how do you deal with palate fatigue? Sorry, it looks like palate to me, but I think I know what you're saying. How do you deal with palate fatigue on the carnivore diet? And I think he's assuming, or he's saying that, you know, that fact that there's not a lot of variety and flavor. Well, there's dairy in my diet, and the fact that I brought the artificial sweetener in, so they're sweet. I have a sweet, a way to eat sweet. As far as the meats, I've always been a fan of meat, so I haven't gotten bored with it. And plus I do use seasoning, so there's that. I'll put salt, pepper, sometimes a little bit of garlic, not too much. You know, some steak seasoning. You know, I'm careful. I don't go crazy because there is a little bit of carbishness in that. But for the most part, I can eat without any seasoning. I try to season specifically to make sure I'm getting salt. I do believe I still don't get enough salt in the diet. Because I don't do bone broth. I should be doing bone broth. I don't do that enough. So, I don't know. I haven't had a problem. Then again, I haven't been at it. I've been at it a week. At 30 days, it might be another story. But I can tell you, when you take away the use of food for pleasure and just use it for sustenance, and you find other things to bring you pleasure, you have less of a requirement to turn to food for comfort and pleasure. And that's one of the issues. A lot of carnivores will tell you that they don't eat for pleasure. They eat because they have to. And turns out that's healthy. Not eating for pleasure. I've spent a lifetime pleasure eating, so I think I'm due to take a step back. It's not like I haven't had my day. I've had every fucking great tasting food you can think of in my life that I loved. And I paid the price. I haven't even paid the price that some people paid a lot bigger price for that lifetime of shitty eating. So even if I became bored with the variety of flavors in the carnivore diet, it would not be the deal breaker for me, because I already had all the good shit. All of the good tasting, addictive comfort foods. I've had all the pasta in the world. I've had all of that shit. So I already had it. I'm good. I want the health now. I don't want that shit anymore. I want the health more than I want the variety of flavor or all of that. But that being said, there is still a lot of creative things you can do within the context of the diet. And you don't have to, like I said, lock yourself in this box of you only eat meat all the time. You can occasionally go back and have a ketogenic food, and go back and have a veg every once in a while, and keep an eye on how you feel, because then you kind of know where you stand with that particular food item. So, and there's so many recipes. If you're more talking from a keto standpoint, you get so many more options. But I'm already starting to experiment with things I can do that remain in the animal-based diet, that, for the most part, that cause no issues, cause no emotional stability, because it's the main marker. It's the only reason I'm carnivore over keto right now. And I'm still going to try and experiment and bring in some of the other foods. But that's how I would treat that, Turns out when you take away everything and you just eat meat a while, and then you bring back like something like 100% chocolate, and you're able to tolerate it, then you've just really boomed your appreciation of that chocolate, whereas you might have been bored with it before you started. So there's that. Take away some of the foods, and and when you bring them back, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's fucking great, yeah, let's do that. So that's what I would go, as far as trying to not get bored with the flavors. But that being said, I'm not really there, but I haven't been doing it long. There's people who have been at it a long time. That'd be a question for Amber O'Hearn, who's been doing it for 8 years. And I do hope someday I could interview her. That's on my list of shit to do, is interview Amber O'Hearn, because I have so many questions for her. So, all right. Scott the Truck Driver, just mix the liver with some ground beef and make meatballs. That's probably a good plan. I might have to try that. Does it bind the meatballs? Because I know meatballs are supposed to have a little bit of carbs in them, or bread or some shit to keep them together. But yeah, I'll have to look at that. That sounds pretty good, actually. And probably would defeat, get rid of that texture problem I was having when I ate it the first time. Well, let's see here. Ozzy, you eating fried bull balls? Well, I think there's some things I just shouldn't eat. All right, and that would be, I'm not eating no animal balls. It's just not on my list of shit to do. So there's that. How are we doing here? We're at 1 hour and 40. I'll go to 2 hours today, and then we'll call it. Let's see. JG Lee, please mix liver with something else like ground beef as suggested. You didn't grow up eating it. You can't eat it straight. Oh, well, you know, who knows? Maybe if I eat it straight enough or flavor it right, I'm going to experiment with it straight first. And go from there. I'll revisit it. And guess what? I'll film it, and you'll get to see it again. Because it might just be a bad reaction every time. You know, until I eventually get liver right. But yes, the meatball idea, I definitely like that idea. And I'll probably try that. Or maybe have a burger mixed together like that. I don't know. It'd be interesting. Let's see. Melissa Lewis, exercise makes me hungry. Yes, it does. That is the biggest misconception that people have about exercise and weight loss is, guess what? When you burn off all that calories, your body wants to get them back. And it sets your hormones up to make that happen. You will be hungrier. When you sit down to eat, you will eat more. And if you aren't actively counting your calories on My Motherfucking Fitness Pal to make sure you don't overeat, your body's going to say, all right, we're doing it. And you won't get full until you've met the energy demand that you did by the exercise. And if you do not meet that energy demand caused by exercise, your metabolism will drop at rest. Up to 500 calories, maybe more, I don't know. That 500 calories is the pretty solid mark I've seen in the studies. But you'll know when your metabolism drops. You'll feel cold. You know, your body does little telltale things when your metabolism drops. And it can get so bad that even if you're in a deficit, you'll gain weight. So there's that. It depends on just how much you tank your metabolism. Best study to look at for that is the Biggest Loser study, where they went back and studied all of them scientifically to see what happened with their metabolism and their weight regain after they did that horrible Eat Less, Move More torture session for us all to watch. Alrighty. Let's see here. Trying to catch up a bit. I'm behind the chat you see on the screen, if you haven't figured that out yet, because I want to try and get to everybody. And I'm only doing that because it's slow today, as far as how quickly it's scrolling. I feel I can get to most people if I do that. Let's see here. What the fuck? Butcher, Ozzy, primitive man had a sweet tooth too, satisfied by fruit. Okay, let's talk about fruit. Now, one of the things people tell me regularly is, well, you can eat fruit, fruit's healthy. Fruit in the context of eating it during the narrow window when it was available to us in those ancient times is probably perfectly healthy. You'll get a little fat, by the way, if we do that. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what we did. We would fatten up with the fruit, and then we'd go through the winter without shit. Except meat. You know, then in the spring we'd plant if we did agriculture, but before that, you know. But most of the year you're running around. The fruit's not ripe. You can't eat it. You know. Plants have this way of letting you know, okay, come take the fruit. And the reason the fruit's there is part of the nature cycle, so that we go eat the fruit and we chuck the seed and the seed becomes another plant. So that's why the fruit's there, and that's why we have a taste for it. Now, we're not designed to be able to go down to Walmart 365 days a year and load up on fruit. Fruit has a specific role in the nature cycle. I've dialed it back. I'm considering seasonally, locally. This is one of the things I want to do when I start looking around at local farms and stuff like that. I want to figure out when the harvest times are for certain fruits that are grown locally and only eat them at harvest time, not frozen and that shit. When they're ready to be eaten, try them out, see what happens, and, you know, see if there's a detriment, see if there's a benefit. Who knows? I do plan on doing that self-experiment. I want to know if eating fruit the way it's available in the local area where I live naturally is healthy. What I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt is eating fruit all times of the year, out of season, from imported from all over the fucking world, because there's always a harvest going on somewhere apparently, or they freeze the shit. That's not good for you. And we need to learn that. We think, oh, fruit's healthy, and we make that blanket statement. Well, you're taking the fruit out of context of what it was supposed to do. And there's a reason you're only able to eat fruit so often. And then you start bringing in the industrial agriculture into the picture, and that just completely destroys fruit when you put the glyphosate all over it. And, you know, it's crazy. That's why it's the biggest reason. Glyphosate's a big stop sign for me for a lot of our agriculture right now. So there's that. Double Keto, thank you for your contributions. Which reminds me, I have to double check my super chats again. See how we're doing there. Alrighty. So I think I caught up with everybody. Brian Smith, I answered your question. Double Keto. So thank you to all of you, Leonardo, Sherry, Dirk, Heather, Brian, and Double Keto for your contributions to the channel. And it allows me to keep doing what I'm doing and spend time doing this instead of doing other shit to make money, that is. Dietary Goddess, do you believe fasting with keto is the only way to be healthy, or can I do keto or carnivore alone without the long fasting periods? Ultimately, that depends on your personal goals. And it depends on what you consider a long fast. I do believe that we are designed to have one big meal a day. That's how often I get hungry. Once a day, I'm hungry. Sometimes I'll add a snack into that mix. I'll have a snack either before my big meal or after. So ultimately, that's about 2 meals a day on average. I averagely fast anywhere from 16 to 20 hours, depending on my schedule. I don't really lock myself into a protocol right now during this period. My favorite protocol, however, is ADF. I do find that I'm happy, I'm functional, my weight is great. Sometimes I lose weight down to the low 180s on doing ADF and stay there as long as I continue ADF. Right now I'm in the upper end of my weight range. 189 through 192 is where I'm hovering. That's pretty high. That's on the high end, but it's not. I'm not looking at that anymore because my belly measurement was the big marker, and that has been stable. So I don't know where I'm putting the weight, but I did put on a little bit of weight. But it's very stable. For the past 2 to 3 weeks, I've been hovering at that, and carnivore has really kept me dialed in. Like, I don't gain or lose outside of that 3-pound window. So there's that. I know I want to introduce some aggressive fasts into that and see what happens at some point, but I didn't want that during the experiment. So basically I'm doing 16 and 8 and eating carnivore. You can just do keto, but if you do keto and you want to do keto by itself, eat intuitively. Eat when you're hungry, eat till you're full. That's the only rule to follow. If you wake up in the morning and you're not hungry, do not eat. And I mean hungry, as in your body saying, okay, I'm hungry, give me food, not craving. We're talking physical hunger, and you'll know. You become in tune with it after a while. If you do that, I contend you'll end up eating once or twice a day, depending on the size of the meal and what you eat and when and meal timing. But don't eat when you're not hungry. That's the key to being successful on keto and carnivore alone. If you're not hungry, don't eat. If you're hungry, eat. And eat till you're full. Those are the 3 rules. And I would say you can get And maybe not to your weight loss goal, but to your health goal that way. If you're looking to push to ab territory, you're not going to get there, I believe, on just keto or carnivore alone, at least not in the short term. It could take probably years for you to go through all your body fat that you stored before doing all of this, because you have to have periods of time where you're relying on that. And we used to. And I do believe fasting still is a very important part of our life because we're designed to do it. We're designed to withstand periods of not eating. And I do also believe that it has other benefits. You know, economically, it's fucking phenomenal. You know, if you do ADF, you're eating half the amount of food over the course of a year. Think of the money savings there. Not to mention the health benefits. The tearing down of damaged tissue, and then after during the feasting and refeeding, you're rebuilding all of that. Brand spanking fucking new. Same thing in your brain. So there are many more benefits with long fasts. But I do believe you can get a lot of the way there just by being keto and carnivore. If you want to go the extra step and be a little healthier, it might be a diminishing return, then add in some long fasts. I myself will continue to do occasional long fasts, 5 days, 10 days, depending on my body fat. But ADF is probably going to be where I ultimately land after this carnivore experiment. When I work in some ketovore, where I add some of the foods I miss from the keto diet, but it's going to be mostly animal-based with a few plant-based things that probably have nothing to do with vegetables. It's mainly, like chocolate, coffee is already there, and of course pecans and nuts, and maybe an occasional keto dessert on like a cheat day. But other than that, not going to be a whole lot of veg in my life after this. So I do believe you could get there most of the way, but you're not going to get all the way there. Fasting is, I believe, a very important part, and there's a reason it's been practiced throughout history. Everywhere from legit famine to religious and cleansing, and there's all kinds of reasons to fast. Treatment of diseases, there are certain diseases that show remarkable improvement with fasting, so look into that. But the best way to be healthy is to include enough fasting. I guess that boils down to it. But there's different levels of health. There's a spectrum, if you will. Dehydrated. I drank too much coffee this morning. All right. 1 hour, 48 minutes we're at. So we got about 10 minutes left. Alrighty. Still scrolling through here. Let me see what we got here. Somebody's watching me from the UK. It's got to be pretty late over there. It's almost 8 o'clock here. Alrighty. So Spive's watching me in Wales. I didn't realize I had viewers in Wales. I know I have viewers in a lot of different countries, I think. I think I've become international and shit. Who knew? Who knew? I never knew when I started this that people all over the world be watching me. And they are. It shows in the metrics. I do plan on traveling. That's on my list of shit to do. It'll start off with road trips here in the U.S., I probably will try and make it to St. Lucia again this year. It's in the works, that trip. But I do want to go over to Europe. I do want to go over to the UK. I want to get around the world a bit more. But I got to take steps before I can do that, because I want to be able to continue my work, because my work is important, and this is my work. Double keto, not sure if you addressed it. You said you gained weight. Did you eat more protein and fat? No. Not well. I do eat more. Like, I'll eat more meat. so I guess I do get more protein, but I also eat just as much fat as I did. The fat has not changed, the amount of fat I eat. What changed was the vegetables and carbs went away, and the protein. Now, the weight regain might have had nothing to do with carno, because I came off of some aggressive fasting protocols, you know, and then I normalized a bit. I had touched my weight down into the 182, 183 range, and then it started climbing while on keto. And it climbed into the 186 to 189 range, and then I went carno, and it went from that to 189 to 192, and it stayed there solidly, has not gone up anymore. It stopped. So I don't know. My body's doing what it needs to do. You know, we get obsessed with that scale number. I'm not obsessed with that anymore because of the belly measurement. The belly measurement has been consistent throughout that weight fluctuation. We got to keep in mind that weight isn't all about fat. It's water. It could be muscle. It could be tissue being rebuilt. It could be shit sitting in you. It could be food weight of the food you just ate. You know, when you eat a pound or 2 pounds of meat, you're holding on to that a bit longer. I think meat takes a bit longer to digest than most foods. But the thing is, we use most of the meat. It goes away. We produce everything we need to produce amino acid wise from it, and there's not much left over, but it sits there a while in that process of digestion, which means you're carrying that weight, and the level of weight I'm carrying is consistent with the amount of food I'm eating. When you eat a pound of meat and you gain a pound, that kind of makes sense. And then just about the time that meat's digested, you eat another fucking pound of meat. So it stands to reason that I'm maintaining 1 to 3 pounds of carrying around the food I ate, because I'm constantly refeeding. That's where fasting will drop that down, because I won't be doing that all the time. So when I go back to ADF, I expect a 3-pound drop, because I won't be constantly carrying around that extra food weight, which is just a fact of life. Everything you put into your body has weight. Another thing you put into your body that has weight, and you know, we forget that. We think, oh, I gained 3 pounds, I'm getting fat again, oh shit. That's just not how it works, really. You know, now if I started putting on inches in the belly area, I would be concerned, because that's an indicator that something's wrong. Even if it's just bloating, because that does happen. I've seen an inch variance occasionally there, but for the most part, every morning when I get up, I'm at 34.75 inches almost consistently. There has been a day, usually after that stupid restaurant shit, where it went up in like about a half an inch, and then it dropped back down in the subsequent days. But if it starts going up like into the 35 inch, 30, and then start hitting that 36 inch again, then I know I'm doing something wrong, that I am putting a lot of fat back on, because that's one of the first places it ends up, and one of the last places it goes away. So it's kind of funny that way. So that's pretty much, you know, I'm moved away from the scale metric. I still track it, just out of a purely, you know, keeping up with things kind of way, but my main metric, my most important metric, is the measurement around my belly, because quite frankly, you know, that's the last place that is fat on me. My legs, skinny as fuck. My arms, my face, the only place I'm carrying any body fat is in the love handles and belly area. So measuring that area is giving me a pretty accurate representation of my body fat, because it's not in my arms. You know, there's not a lot of fat going on anywhere but there. So it stands to reason that if I want to keep an eye on things, I should keep an eye on that. I actually wouldn't mind if I put on a little weight in other areas of my body, but just how it is. So I contend that the 3 pounds and the variance is food weight, and that is largely supported by my rather rough bowel movements, which are fairly they've become more frequent, by the way. I should say that. I used to be every 3 days I would have to go in there. Right now I'm at the point that it's every other day, sometimes 2 days in a row, and it is getting easier. So I'm think I'm doing something, or maybe it was an adjustment period. Maybe the gut bacteria had to restructure or something. I don't know. But it is getting more frequent and a little easier. Today I had an easy one. It was still solid. It was one of them one wipe wonders. Toilet paper's white in the first shot. You know what I'm talking about. So, it's getting better in that department. Which tends the reason, because I get a lot of feedback from other carnivores that are saying, yeah, that it should be better. You shouldn't be having that problem. Try this, or you shouldn't be having that problem. Eat more fat. I find eggs probably. I wasn't eating enough eggs. I think I leaned too much on the meat side and not enough eggs. So I think I need to work eggs more often into the diet, because I think that helps the bowel movements a bit. So there's that. Spive, Scott, my scale weight not moved for many weeks, but waist gone down and muscle mass gone up. I almost look like a man now instead of an 11-year-old girl. And that's an illustration of exactly what I'm saying is, as far as the scale goes. A lot of people get hyper-focused on that scale. There's two metrics that you could do to kind of keep up with things. One of them is very helpful. Take this motherfucker thing and go in and take a picture of yourself. And then 2-3 weeks later, take another picture of yourself. In your with just underwear, or however the fuck you want to do that. Just be careful where to put it. And then compare the two. And I mean compare. These are, phones are like 12 megapixels or 16 megapixels in some phones now. You can zoom way in and keep an eye on different parts of your body. And if you're really careful, you can kind of overlay it a bit. And you can see the changes. I've noticed the changes without having to take pictures. There will be pictures at some point. I'm not a big fan of that. But you'll start to notice the areas. And for me, the areas that I notice are in the belly area. There's more definition. It used to be just perfectly round. Perfectly round. Like a little bit of chew bubblegum action in here and there is what I used to have. And it was just bulbous. Now it has some definition to it. Like you can almost feel like there may be abs in there somewhere. That kind of definition's creeping in. Around the central area, it's caving in a little. Around the love handle areas, there's a little bit of, an indent there that used to not be there. These are things I'm noticing going forward. And, I can almost see my ribs in the upper body. So there's that, which I would believe is too thin. If I can see my ribs, then you're going to see motherfucker have a cheat day and put on some fat. So I'm not looking to try and have my ribs showing. But as far as the lower abdomen, there is more definition there than there used to be. And of course you measure around it, and that's a good indicator. And according to most of the shit I've read, when you do that measurement, the measurement around your belly button should be half your height, whether you're in centimeters or inches, depending on however you measure, should be half of your height, and that's considered healthy range. And that could be supported by blood work. So I know between the blood work and my measurement, I don't have fatty liver. And I did for a long time. I know I did. And I'm good. I'm healthy. And so, do I look fuckable? Do I look good with my shirt off? I don't know. I won't be Thomas DeLauer anytime soon. Thank you, Thomas DeLauer, for sponsoring so many of my videos and advertising on them quite often. Keep up the good work. But I will never do that. I'm not going to be the shirt off guy. There's plenty of other take your shirt off motherfuckers preaching keto and fasting on YouTube. I don't need to be one of them. I got a beard. I'm good. I don't need to be that guy. So there's that. Wow, you sent me off on a whole little tangent there. Chayote, in your first videos, you even had thick fingers. That's a true story. Every once in a while, I like to go back and look at my first fucking vlog where I was doing everything wrong. That is really a good snapshot, literally a good snapshot of how I was living my life. First of all, I had an injury. You know, I was just getting over a broken leg. I was out of work at the time, and I started the channel out of pure boredom. And then I eventually, you know, this was going to be just a regular fucking everyday vlog when I started out. But I was still drinking Mountain Dew, Gatorade. In the video, I actually went to Five Guys and ate what I normally would eat, including all the fructose and the, you know, this was before they had milkshakes, so I was just drinking soda with it or Gatorade and all of that sugar into my life, all of that, and I was fat, you know, I was obese. You know, when you weigh 255 pounds, you're obese at 6 foot. And I was pre-diabetic, and it was after I went and got the job as a trucker again, because I had the job, but I had to go through the DOT physical, because I was going to return to work. And they wanted to make sure that I had recovered from my injury, so I had to go through the physical. And part of the physical was the blood sugar shit, and the doctors were not happy with me, and you know, I had sugar in my piss. They sent me to get my fasting blood glucose. I passed that test because I drank water. Pretty much from that point on, I was afraid I wouldn't get the job. And you know, by doing that, I was essentially fasting, and I didn't know it back then. And I ended up passing the test, but then I knew that every 2 years this was going to be a worsening problem and I needed to do something. So that's when I started to look into losing weight. You know, I was going to pound a fuck master like everybody else. I was going to do all the standard shit. But I started to research, you know, because I started following a lot of YouTubers back then, and then I came across intermittent fasting, and I was like a caveman with fire, and so on and so on, and here I am today with not as thick of fingers, and a whole lot of other fat gone. So there's that. I went from 255 at my peak all the way down to the lowest weight I've achieved is 182 pounds. However, I've hovered in the 180s for the past couple months, with occasionally dipping my toe in 190, 191, which is where I'm at today. When I reintroduce ADF, I anticipate hovering in that 180 range for probably indefinitely, unless something weird happens, or maybe my body will just all of a sudden decide, hey, okay, we can lower the body set point a bit, we're good, we've had this abundance for a while, we're good. I don't know, it's a question I have yet to answer. But as far as, am I considering myself at my goal? Yes, that is a huge weight loss, that is a huge health victory, not to be detracted from, or, you know, there has to come to a point where you got to accept where you're at. And I think I'm there. I'm happy with where I'm at. Could I experiment and get to my high school weight of 175? I don't know. Could it happen? Well, I do fast, and I do like still doing longer fasts, so it's possible. I might have more muscle on me than I did in high school, too. There's that. You know, I was still growing. I was 17 back then, you know. So who knows where I'm at in terms of what my ideal body weight should be. To me, it's about my ideal health at this point. I don't want to be on pills. I don't want to be in the hospital. I don't want to die of a preventable chronic disease. I'd rather get hit by a bus or some other unforeseen, maybe an infectious disease that I didn't think of. But as far as diabetes, cancer, heart attack, stroke, all of that shit, there's no reason to die from that if you know what you're doing. And that's my goal. Alrighty. Let's see here. Connie, yes, I have become very aware of my belly fat. Me no likey, keep on ketoing. Belly fat's gonna be the slowest thing to go. At least it has been for me. It's the last bastion of body fat, and your body will, especially if you're an intermittent faster, will try to hold on and rebuild that area every chance it could get. And that's a natural survival instinct. We're designed to be able to carry around enough calories to get us through the winter, you know. So there's that. The problem is winter never comes, and we need to fast to simulate what we are designed to actually be enduring. So there's that. Let's see here. Cindy Brown, how is your mom doing? I kind of went over this a little earlier. I'll touch on it again. Like I said, she's lost 10 pounds. Blood sugar is in the 110 range, so it's down a little bit. She has made a few dips below 100, particularly on days where she was physically active. And I know I don't mean going down to the Planet Fitness and pounding the Fuckmaster. No, she's out and about doing old lady things, walking around, you know, helping friends move stuff and clean and stuff like that. And on the days she does that, her blood sugar drops. And on the days she's inactive, it goes up to the 120s. And like I said, that's the pancreas not producing enough insulin to clear the blood sugar, because you still have blood sugar, you still have glycogen stores, and cortisol and glucagon all release that into the blood, and if you can't pump out enough insulin to get that job done, to get that back down, it stays in the blood. And that's why you see people with more serious diabetes that they wake up with the dawn effect every morning, and their blood sugar's in the 130s fasted, or 120s. Hers has been slowly dropping, and I contend if she does this for a year or two, she will be below 100 consistently. It's just a matter of staying dedicated, not cheating, not going back. If you're diabetic, you got to do this. You got to stay on it, or you're going to be medicated, or you're going to have the consequences of diabetes, or heart disease for that matter. So she's doing good though. She seems very happy. She's, you know, she's got a friend that can get her eggs directly from a farm and shit. She's, you know, really getting on board with a lot of what I've been saying and preaching on my channel, because I think she's now seen some of the benefits that you can get. And, you know, even, you know, she had back pain too. And one of the side effects of losing 10 pounds of weight is you're not carrying around 10 pounds of weight. So your back isn't struggling as much. So you're not going to be in as much pain. So she might even be able to dial back some of her pain medication that she was on, some of which is cause blood sugar issues, by the way, gabapentin. And, you know, as she's losing the weight on keto, the pain levels are dropping. Therefore, you don't have to take as much pain medication. And if she could get off those pain meds, she'll see a drastic leap in health. And that's all through the power of the diet. She doesn't fast, by the way, at all. She's kind of not on board with that. Well, it's been 2 hours. So I have to wrap this shit up. If I didn't get to your question, I apologize. I do tend to go back, especially now that YouTube, I think, saves the thing. But plus, I already recorded all of the chat. If I didn't get to your question, I'll see you next time. Or just try and get at me in the comments. I do check the comments here and there. But thank you all. And thank you once again to my super chatters, who are Double Keto, Brian, Heather, Dirk, Sherry. Sherry, also, by the way, is a very long time contributor and very good supporter of the channel. Thank you, Sherry, for your very generous contributions to the channel. Since I started getting contributions to the channel, you've been pretty much there. And Leonardo Kazdiran. Sorry if I fuck your name up. So thank you all once again. To those of you who like and subscribe and comment and interact and have formed this community of like-minded individuals, all seeing I constantly get such great feedback of results. of things that, you know, you guys are being successful with, of difficulties you come across, of bringing my attention to all of the bullshit that's out there. I want to thank all of you because that is also a valuable contribution to this channel. Let's continue to expand our fucking knowledge and our ability to overcome our health without the help of the pharmaceutical industry, who is there not to heal us, but to make money off of our illnesses. And I want to change the world, and we start with us and how we spend our money and what we do. If you go out and support your local growers, your local farms that are doing the right thing to provide food, then you can change it from the ground up, I believe. As it becomes profitable to do that, people will do that to make money. Turns out you can turn this power of money for good or evil. So just a thought to leave you with, that every time you spend money on a bad, unhealthy food, you are essentially telling everybody that that is what you want. And when you do that, companies are going to do more of it, and they're going to try and get you to keep doing that. And they're going to say things that are going to make you want to do that still. So step outside that box. Think about your health first. Is it really that pleasurable bowl of pasta with glyphosate all over it and sugar sprinkled into the sauce really fucking worth what you're giving up at the end of your life and the billions of dollars spent on healthcare needlessly for preventable chronic diseases that result from eating that cup for food? So, thoughts to leave this video with. I'm pretty much looking at a couple videos next week, but it'd probably be later in the week because I do have 2 photo shoots that I have to edit on Monday. So there's that. So I'll be working through the weekend. And I might take a day off after that because I need a day off. Been working a lot. Please like and subscribe for more shit. And remember, I'm not a fucking expert. I'm just a fucking asshole. And have a nice fucking motherfucking day. Yeah, and I fucked up my outro. How did I manage that shit? Alrighty. Bye-bye now.